So when you hear the term heartbreak or when you hear about someone who is heartbroken, you may think that they're being a bit dramatic or that's not something that's serious, but unless you've gone through something like that before, then you would know why the reason why the term heartbreak is applied because it feels like this physical kind of pain that's like in your chest, kind of similar. At least for me, it's kind of similar to kind of anxiety you get. You feel anxious. You go through similar kind of feelings that someone who is recovering from a drug addiction when they go through that withdrawal period. It's kind of the same thing with heartbreak. You're trying to learn how to live without that person in your life anymore. And when I talk about heartbreak, I'm talking about for people who are experiencing it for like the very first time. Generally, people who are a bit younger, like teenagers or mid 20s, early 20s. And I'm not talking about like you're when you're like 15, 14, middle school, high school, the kind of relationship you have like I don't know for like a week or whatever when you guys just break up and you just feel kind of sad, but whatever. No, I mean like an actual relationship that goes on for quite a bit of time and you invest a significant amount of like emotional effort or just effort in general. A relationship where you feel that you could say that you love the person. So when you go through a breakup, the feeling of being heartbroken is generally the outcome, and it's heartbreak is a very context dependent feeling because depending on the kind of relationship you had, the way it ended, it can feel very different. Or if you're the person who got broken up with, or you're the person who broke up with the other person, it's very it's not a one kind of thing for everybody. The feeling is generally the same, the way you feel, but the way you go about it is different depending on the context. I see a lot of people when they go through a breakup. From my personal experience in my life, they it's almost as if they like fall apart and they've almost forgotten like who they were beforehand. Um, Kind of like what I mentioned before, the idea that you shouldn't feel dependent on the person, you shouldn't feel like you need them, but you should want them instead. Examples that I've seen is for example, someone who's and this doesn't not only does it apply heartbreak, it apply it to anything like depression for example, but when I see someone who's gotten heartbroken before, they might fall into alcoholism or drug addiction or just like unhealthy habits. And I think it's important when you go through something like that you have like the support of somebody and also having activities that are healthy that you can focus on, take your mind off things so you can kind of bounce back and feel more comfortable living a life that you haven't been used to living for however many time that you were in the relationship for. So for me, I had my first real relationship when I was 18. My first girlfriend, it was around the same time when I was starting my first year in college, and we lasted about 20 months, so nearly 2 years, and we broke up over the summer. And she broke up with me, and it was pretty tough to deal with. Not only that, like I had other things going on at the same time, with like other problems I had going on at the same time, so it was pretty difficult. But what I could say is, it's been about 3 months since it that initially happened, and now like I could say like I feel I'm in a pretty good place, I could say, and how I got there is kind of having this mentality. This is where I go into the motivation part. When you go through a breakup, you want to be in a situation where you can really focus on in particular yourself, but more specifically something about yourself that you want to change for the better. And for me, that was a lot of things. I used this time to really reflect on my behavior during the relationship. As I said, I was 18. I would say I was pretty immature. I wasn't. I didn't give the 100% that I know I could have. And post the relationship, I really took a big look at myself in the mirror and thought about like I need to mature. Like I need to mature and be a better version of myself, or else I'll fall and just be someone that I don't want to be. And the way I did that, I talked about it before, like focus on my physical health. At first it started off as like losing weight and just being more active and more healthy. But more recently, it kind of transitioned into focusing on myself in other areas. Like I took better care of myself, like appearance wise. I feel like I'm better groomed. Like I genuinely try to take care of my hair, my beard, for example, or like I put a little bit more thought into the clothes I wear. I'm a bit more organized. I just do a lot more things for myself, and I don't want to ever feel like I'm in a situation where I need to rely on somebody else. Although you can focus on yourself and do these kinds of things to help better yourself, the one thing that could possibly derail you is, your own mind. Especially if it's recently, you're always gonna kind of be thinking about what happened, that specific person, or even the way it ended. It really depends on the context. And for me, like I'll admit that I still think about it to this day, about what happened, the way it ended, things like that. But I got to a point where I came to a realization pretty quickly that I shouldn't drive myself crazy, especially with the questions that I had. I don't know about other people, but I, for a fact, had all these questions in my head about why did this happen, how did this happen, this and that, and I would drive myself crazy. And I thought to myself, I probably most likely won't ever get the answers to these questions, so I'm not gonna drive myself crazy trying to think about the answers when it's really just gonna drive me crazy. It's not gonna be beneficial for me if I keep having this mindset of what happened and having all these questions. But once you can be in a situation where other things take up space in your mind, being this is where the motivation comes in. Like you have to like I wouldn't say you should necessarily use a breakup as a motivation to do things, because I don't think that's a solid foundation. It could give you like a push. It definitely did give me a push, but I didn't want to do things and have this mindset of, oh, I'm going to show her, like, I'm going to be really great so I can kind of rub it in her face. Like, no, that's not a mindset you should have. You should do things for yourself and have the foundation that you should be intrinsically motivated to do better for yourself and not have this outside external factor be the thing that is guiding you. Like I mentioned before, having support from family and friends is, I would say, it's pretty crucial. Like I'm fortunate enough that my three sisters and my mom were there for me when everything happened. My mom told me something that kind of stuck with me. I didn't want to hear it at the time because it was pretty fresh, and I just thought that she was just talking nonsense. But now I can really understand what she was saying. She mentioned that you shouldn't feel angry. You shouldn't like hate the person or feel all these negative feelings. You should kind of just like not necessarily let it go, but just when you reflect, think about not all the bad times. Think about like the good times, the good memories. All the like you don't want to have this like nasty image of anybody in your head, because it's once if you hold this negative sentiment towards somebody, it can really take a hold of you, and you don't want to go into other situations with the mindset of, oh, I don't want to do this because this happened before. I'm talking about like meeting new people. You might think, I don't want to pursue any relationship with this person because this other person did this to me, and this new person might do the same thing to me. So that's why you should have at least try to have a positive image of that person who broke up with you or you broke up with, because it will make you feel better in the long run. Like trust me, I can say that. Like I don't hate her. I don't feel any negative feelings towards her, and I'm glad that I took that approach, because I don't have this like weight on my shoulders of like I need to prove to her that like I'm better off without her, or just any kind of nonsense like that. But it really is intrinsic motivation, and what I mean by that is you need to motivate yourself. You need to have the desire to want to be better, do better for yourself. And pain from heartbreak is temporary. It won't last that long, but your behavior and actions that come from that pain, and those have lasting impacts. That's why it's really important that you really try early on when it's fresh to just try to just really do your best to try to shake your mind off of it and just really focus on the other things, so that you don't do anything drastic, you don't do anything stupid. And like I said before, it's really context based. Like I'm fortunate to say that it didn't end in a way that I would say is violent or anything really toxic. It wasn't ideal the way it ended for me. I really wish the way it ended it didn't end that way, but it wasn't anything that I would consider like really bad. So where do you go from there? I'm at that stage now where, I have that question on my mind, and there really is only two logical answers. You can either move on or go back to that person. And a lot of people will say, moving on is always the obvious choice, like they'll say it's never a good idea to go back. And I think it's really, again, the context is really dependent. For example, if the relationship ended and the reasons was it because the reasons for it ending was really toxic, and the person was like an asshole and they just did really bad things that were kind of disgusting, then I would say just move on. Like, you don't need that in your life. Also, I think age really takes a part in it. Another example is if you left someone because they were like immature and just did childish things, and they're like 29, like they're really unlikely to change. It's really dependent on the situation. I can tell you that you will feel, at least for me, like I've felt like I wanted to get back with her, like that only because like my feelings for her were so strong. Like I really, like I would say, like I really loved the person. So it's normal for me to feel that way. But really, I don't think that choice is so personal that you could ask for advice from someone, but like I wouldn't want to persuade someone into doing something that could have such a big impact on their life. If someone if someone decides and they really feel like they want to get back with the person that broke up with them, or they want to move on, it's really is their choice. And the consequences that comes from that, like you got to live with, and you learn from it. And really everything is just a learning experience. I can say for myself that I can honestly admit that even to this day, like I wouldn't necessarily say like I have deep feelings for the person, but like I do still like really care about her, because we dated for like such a long time and I invested so much emotionally. Right? Would I be open to the idea of starting that up again? Like, sure, yeah, maybe, but in order for that to happen, there has to be all these other things have to take place first. Do I hope that it happens? I don't know. I guess I guess I'll know the answer to what happens between me and that person, years from now, when I look back on this. But the biggest takeaway that you should get from this video is that you should just focus on yourself if you go through something like that. It's really important that you don't spend your life in that post breakup time worrying about the other person. You just gotta really think about yourself and be better for yourself. I know for me, I have plenty of activities that help me take my mind off things. Like I'll watch like YouTube videos, I'll play video games. One thing that I consider a hobby is like listening to music. Oftentimes, I'll just like listen to music, and it really helps me out. I use it as a mechanism to help me think, and kind of clears my mind a lot. But what you shouldn't do is having a habit or an activity that is unhealthy for you, like drinking, for example. Like you shouldn't binge drink because you feel sad. That's never the way to go. And if you are in a situation like that where you do unhealthy, when you're engaged in unhealthy habits, it really helps to have the support of somebody. Don't take it personally if someone calls you out on whatever it is that you're doing, because at the end of the day, they just care about you and they don't want to see you go down the wrong path. It may seem like it's the end of the world, but trust me, it's really not. It's pretty temporary. You'll get over it, and whatever happens. I kind of have this "it is what it is" mentality. That's why it's kind of easier for me to not necessarily move on, but position myself to be in a better situation than when I was at the time. There's probably a lot more I could say. Like when I do these kind of videos, I don't have like a script. Everything's like off the top of my head, because I think it's more authentic. And when you have a conversation with somebody, or you're kind of just like thinking on your own, you don't have a script in front of you. So I feel like this way is more authentic, and I might ramble on a bit, but who cares who's watching this anyways. I'll probably post more videos and kind of respond to the videos that I've already put up, kind of elaborating on more things or offering more details if I feel like, or if anybody like wants more If anybody wants to hear me talk more, well, who does? But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say at the moment. Not that I can think of. So yeah, let's see what I post next. I'll see you guys later.